What's up, guys? Sam Bankman-Fried has been charged. We're going to break down the indictment, the process, and the charges that he's charged with. All right, so we've got a sealed indictment right here. U.S. of America versus Samuel Bankman-Fried, a.k.a. SBF. That's what everyone calls him. That's what we're going to call him because that is a mouthful. So first of all, I want to talk to you about the process of what goes into an indictment. So first of all, there's a grand jury. And what the grand jury does is they sit on a panel in court, and the government, United States of America, they put on evidence. The prosecutors put on evidence to show that it's more likely than not that these individuals committed these crimes. And so in this situation, SBF committed the crimes that are outlined in this. So there's no defense attorney. SBF is not there. So pretty much it's just to see if the United States has enough evidence to actually charge someone with the crime. And then, so they put on the evidence. So the state puts on the evidence, and then the jury decides, okay, is there enough evidence here to charge SBF? In this situation, there was. And then the prosecutors decide, okay, let's go ahead and indict SBF. So they brought charges. So right here, the grand jury charges count 1, conspiracy to commit wire fraud on customers. The grand jury charges. So conspiracy. First of all, conspiracy, what is conspiracy? It is 1, a mutual agreement or understanding. 2, knowingly entered by a defendant. And 3, with an intent to jointly commit a crime. So conspiracy requires more than one person. But in this indictment, there's only one individual, and that's SBF. So we'll have to see what they say is the other individuals who he conspired with. It's probably his employees. That would be understandable, but let's take a look. And to commit wire fraud on customers, obviously customers are you and me, anyone who bought cryptos on FTX, because all that money, most of it, is gone now. And so wire fraud, let's look at what the government says by it. It is, so the elements of wire fraud are: to prove wire fraud, government must show a scheme. 1, scheme to defraud by means of false pretenses. 2, defendant's knowing and willful participation in the scheme with intent to defraud. And 3, use of interstate wire communications in furtherance of the scheme. They go on, they cite on this where they talk about United States Department of Justice archives. So elements of wire fraud, they kind of list out quite a few. Originally, it was mail fraud, but since with technology rapidly advancing, they put telephone call, electric communication. So really anything that requires communications, wire communications, interstate. So it has to be interstate. Can't just be within one state. But obviously FTX was everywhere. So that's what conspiracy to commit wire fraud on customers is. So let's go back over here. So the grand jury charges, that's because the jury that the prosecution, that the state, the government showed the evidence to the jury, that's the grand jury, and they chose to bring this count 1 against him, from at least in or about 2019 up to including on or about November 2022 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, SBF and others, known and unknown. So now they might just put form language in this, but they say known. I don't know if they actually know of the others who he conspired with, and unknown. So they're saying it might be people that we don't know who it is yet, or even they might not ever know. Willfully and knowingly did combine, conspire, and agree together with each other to commit wire fraud. It was a part and object of the conspiracy, the defendant, the others, and others known and unknown. So this is where they define wire fraud on customers. knowingly have devised and intending to devise a scheme and artifice to defraud and for obtaining money and property by means of false and fraudulent pretenses, representations, and promises, would and did transmit and cause to be transmitted by means of wire, radio, television communication, and interstate and foreign commerce, writing, signs, signals, pictures, and sounds for the purpose of executing such scheme and artifice. SBF agreed with others to defraud customers of FTX.com by misappropriating those customers' deposits and using those deposits to pay expenses and debts of Alameda Research, SBF's proprietary crypto hedge fund, and to make investments. So obviously that is against the law. He was misappropriating individuals' funds who had accounts with FTX. So I would be really interested in seeing what evidence was actually shown to the grand jury and what evidence they have. And that brings in another question. With all of this information, there has got to be so much documentation. It would take many prosecutors to prosecute these crimes against SBF and possibly other people. However, I saw someone, I don't remember who, I don't remember where I saw it, but they had said the difficulty in this case is that there just simply isn't any documentation. So that's another thing to think about. So count 2, wire fraud on customers. So the first one was conspiracy to commit wire fraud. So that's just saying that SBF conspired with someone else. He talked to someone and they both agreed, or people to agree to commit wire fraud. And then they actually charged him with actually carrying out the wire fraud. And so what this count 2 paragraph will say, just one paragraph, is that he actually carried that out instead of just conspiring. Count 3, conspiracy to commit wire fraud on lenders. So again, conspiracy, he agreed with someone to commit this crime, wire fraud on lenders. So those who lend money, let's see if they put defraud lenders to Alameda Research. So it doesn't look like they put specific, by providing false and misleading information to those lenders regarding Alameda Research financial condition. So he showed false and misleading information to those who are lending FTX money. Count 4, wire fraud on lenders. So again, this is just where he actually carried it out, he and whoever else, known or unknown. So count 5, conspiracy to commit commodities fraud. Again, agreeing with someone to commit commodities fraud. So they say others known, SBF and others known and unknown, willfully and knowingly did combine, conspire, and agree together and with each other to commit an offense against the U.S. So that's the conspiracy part, and then they come down here to the commodities fraud part. So what they're saying is that they agreed and attempted, in connection with a swap, a contract of sale of a commodity in interstate commerce and for future delivery on and subject to the rules of a registered entity, a manipulative, deceptive device, and contravention by using, employing, and attempting to use and employ a manipulative device, scheme, and artifice to defraud. So using this whole scheme of FTX.com to get money and take it and misappropriate it, making and attempting to make an untrue and misleading statement of material fact and omitting to state a material fact necessary in order to make the statements made not untrue or misleading. And C, engaging and attempting to engage in an act, practice, and course of business which operated and would operate as a fraud, deceit upon a person. So he is charged with conspiracy. Here's what they allege he did. The defendant and others misappropriated FTX.com customer deposits in order to satisfy loan obligations owed by Alameda Research. Count 6, conspiracy to commit securities fraud. Let's scroll down to exactly what they did. Caused an email to be sent to an FTX investor in New York that contained materially false information about FTX's financial condition. So that's really to the lender, an investor, an FTX investor. And it just says one investor, so I don't know if that went to numerous investors or just one. How they say it, it says an FTX investor. And count 7, conspiracy to commit money laundering. And basically what money laundering is making a whole bunch of money from illegal things. Let's scroll down to see what exactly they believe he did. Would and did knowingly engage in an attempt to engage in a monetary transaction in criminally derived property of a value greater than $10,000 and that was derived from specified unlawful activity. To wit, the wire fraud alleged in count 2, so it points back up to count 2 of this indictment in violation of the U.S. Code. So again, they say conspiracy right here, and conspiracy. So they don't say that they actually went through with it, which is interesting that they didn't bring those. Conspiracy to defraud the U.S. and violate the campaign finance laws. So let's see exactly what they allege he did. So he knowingly and willfully made contributions to candidates for federal office, joint fundraising committees, and independent expenditure committees in the names of other persons, aggregating to $25,000 and more in a calendar year in violation. So you can only give so much money to politicians, and it says that he violated that in this. Defendant and others known and unknown would and did knowingly and willfully make contributions to candidates for federal office and joint fundraising committees by a corporation, aggregating $25,000 or more in a calendar year. So defendant and one or more other conspirators agreed to and did make corporate contributions to candidates and committees in the Southern District of New York that were reported in the name of another person. So that is pretty big. They're saying that he gave money to politicians over and above the $25,000 that he's allowed to through someone else's name. So that's like me giving you $50,000 or let's say $25,000 and saying, hey, give this to Joe Biden for his election. That's illegal when I have already given up to my limit. So that is definitely illegal. Forfeiture. What is forfeiture? Forfeiture is just saying, hey, you have these proceeds, you have this property, whether it be money, guns, drugs, you have this property, and it came about in an illegal manner, and so we are filing a forfeiture against you for you to give it back to us, and we can return it to the owner. Or if there is really no owner, if it's like drug money, obviously selling and buying drugs, some drugs, or at least it used to, is illegal. So they would take that money and just keep it. The state would, or the country. So let's see what property, but not limited to a sum of money in the U.S. currency representing the amount of property involved in the said offense. So just the money that was used in the offense. So that's what he has been charged with. Quite a few charges. 8. I think it was 8. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And a forfeiture. And really, I watched the news the other night, and he was speaking at some convention. I think it was NBC or ABC. Someone put it on CBS. And obviously, he was virtual, so he was safely in the Bahamas, or safely since he already got arrested there. But this was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and he said he really wasn't concerned about these charges, which is very surprising. I mean, I would be concerned about any federal charges being brought against me because the penalties for federal charges are much greater than state charges. And usually state charges, you can get around certain penalties, but under federal laws, those penalties are a lot more severe and a lot more strict. So I don't know why you would say that. People are painting him out to be just in a tough position, and it's not his fault. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think he should be held accountable for this? Or do you think he was just a pawn in the whole scheme of someone else's plan? So let me know what you think in the comments, and we will definitely keep up with this because it is very interesting. And I even invested in crypto, but luckily not on FTX. So if there's any other stories you'd like to see me cover, just let me know and watch this latest video right here.